when you were playing all of this music. But you know, as I watched this wonderful film, it's inspirational because you see, music has the ability to bring people together, all races, all color, all creed. Whether it's going back to Stax, Satellite, going back to Kenny Gamble, going back with Berry Gordy, going back way, way back, man, in L.A., man, with Modern, Kent, all those wonderful little labels, man. And it's funny because as I watched this, it all began with a record store, okay? And that's where young people would congregate. You might remember in Philadelphia, David, we had a place called the Record Museum, which I started back in 1960, and it was a shoot-off of a...
Whoa! Whoa!
You okay?
Oh. Yeah.
But when you really get down to it, guys, it was the record stores that really were very, very important for young kids to congregate. And when I first heard this, I was 13 years of age, and I was dancing on Bandstand. Now, back in those days, it wasn't Dick Clark's Bandstand. It was Bob Horn's Bandstand, and all these guys can tell you, when the major little black artists would be making the regional hits, all of the major record companies would be covering it because they had national distribution back in those days. Shaboom was by the Chords, the hit was by the Crew Cuts. Little Darling, the original record was by the Gladiolas. The Diamonds wind up having all that. And Tweedledee Dee, you might remember, was Laverne Baker. Georgie Gibbs had the hit. Jim Dandy, Georgie Gibbs had the hit. That all stopped. Because I can remember at 13, Bob Horn would say to me, got a record here called Tutti Frutti. We're going to put it on Rate the Record. It's by Pat Boone. I said, yo, Bob, that ain't the original. He said, well, that's what the record company gave me. I said, man, the original's on specialty with a fellow by the name of Richard Penniman, Little Richard, man. He said, well, get me the record. So then, back in the day, in '56, he was the first white cat. Other than the cat out of Baltimore, you might remember they did Hairspray on Buddy Dean that was playing black music on TV. And then you cats just broke through, man. I mean, it's just amazing. So that's the way it really began, David, for a guy like me. And even today on XPN, when I do a show, I play the real deal. It's the roots. Yeah. And the roots of where you guys came from in this wonderful film that you did. And as I said earlier, and I'm going to let you guys talk because I'm going to split. I'm going to get some wine. I'm going to let you continue doing your thing. But, yeah, I got good Italian wine. And by the way, this is for you. Somebody asked, Seymour Stein asked me to give you that. Because that's a real deal with music. But thank you for just letting me just be a part of this. David, I thank you. And God bless you guys. Because without you, man, young people would not have ever had the way. I mean, I found it from a broken home, man. Jewish racketeer father, saint mother who was Italian, was disowned, raised by the nuns, but it was music. It was the black music that I heard, which was the real deal. It wasn't Perry Como, man. I mean, it was back in those days, man. The cats like Fats Domino, man. Going back with Richard, man. Going back with Lloyd Price, who's still doing it today. So God bless you guys and keep it alive. Thank you, David. Thank you, David.
We have been blessed by Jerry, so we shall continue. Hey, Martin, while you're getting your book signed, can you talk a little bit about putting this together from the very conception? I noticed you and Cody Dickinson get credit, co-credit for kind of starting things off, but wow, what an amazing project. And was it conceived initially as this idea of the older generation, younger generation, or did you just want to do something about Memphis?
The inspiration came from the fact that I really believed that the world needed to know where their music came from. And the foundation that William and Al put together in a musical utopia where it was race blind, gender blind, generational blind, and you came through the door and you made music in one of the hardest places and most segregated and discriminated areas in the country. And I wanted people to understand where the world's popular music was influenced, inspired by this foundation that was built. So that's really it. And you know, the idea too of there has been fracture between communities and particularly generations. And a lot of the older musicians didn't understand the younger musicians because there was no communication going on. So the idea of bringing different genres together at the source of music, to me was incredibly inspiring. And you know, there's certain songs where you hear rap, soul, full-on Southern rock and roll, you know, in the same song, seamlessly put together.
Well, you managed to capture that. Was the heart and soul of this is the performances, and I can't. I'm just so impressed with how you guys captured things. Jerry, what was your role as producer? Was it with the music, or tell me what your role?
It started with the music, and Martin had been working on it for about a year when we started to become really good friends. And I had played some mixes from, I had done a film with Kenny Wayne Shepherd called 10 Days Out, Blues from the Backroads, and then there was a follow-up tour. And so I was playing basically live recordings, and he was like, God, that sounds so good. And I said, well, we should bring the, you know, the tapes or the sessions over, because I have to credit E.T. Thorngren, who is the engineer I work with, and we...
An appropriate name.
Right, yes, and we just fell in love with the music, but the recordings were beautiful, but there was still a way to make them even better. And so we really took our time and got it right. And then Martin started to trust me much more, and we became more and more friends, and we were hanging out more. So I became then involved in what the edit looked like. But you know, went down to the session with William, and sort of became, I don't know, the other guy to bounce the ideas off.
Fraser Boy,
He was a good other guy.
definitely. Fraser Boy, I kind of made a joke about which generation are you part of, because you've been, you know, in the hip hop world for a while. But what was it like for you to write against these tracks and to play with a live band? Because you mentioned that in the film, that this is unusual.
Man, it was an amazing experience. This was actually my first time working with a live band, just by what I do in the rap music. I never worked with a live band, and I can tell you that it made me fall in love with music all over again, like the first time. And it probably won't be the last time you hear me working with a live band. Me and William been talking about doing something new, but I think I've done a great job. What you think? It was amazing, man. Just really working with somebody that you grew up listening to. Bobby Rush is my mother's favorite artist, and just being able to show her that I've came along so far to work with an artist that she loves, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
So that's what it was for me.
Well, you definitely did it.
Appreciate it.
William Bell, zillion questions for you. But you had the opportunity to do this older generation, younger generation thing, and that seems it seems that the older generation got more out of it. I mean, got a lot out of it talking with kids. What was that experience like for you?
It was a dream come true. When Martin first approached me about this project, I was a little bit apprehensive, as he can tell you. But we agreed to meet and talk, and I saw that the dedication and everything. But my first question to Martin was, do we want to do this right? And he assured me that that's the only way that he wanted to do it. So, and I saw the dedication and the love that he had, not only for music, but for just bringing the generations and people together. And so I told him I was in, and I'm glad I became a part of it. And it was just like a dream come true, because I like working with young kids and instilling that dream into them, and about and being creative.
Part of the thing that I get out of this is that there could be a continuation and good things happening for Memphis from this. And Al Bell, I'm going to kind of put you in the position of speaking for Memphis because you speak with such great authority in this film. How did the city react? Has there been screenings in Memphis, and what's it been like?
Oh, yes. Let me, if you will, give you a perspective on Take Me to the River that I don't think, unless I do this, it will be recorded in the annals of history. And I think it's very important. You know, when Martin started out and decided he wanted to do this film documentary, his first investor was the Memphis Commercial Appeal, which was the major newspaper in town. And they wanted to tell Martin how they wanted him to produce it. At that time, I was chairman of the board of the Memphis Music Foundation, and it was brought to me, and I was asked to see if I could go and talk to this fellow named Martin so that he could, you know, understand this was the Memphis Commercial Appeal, and see if they could work out some way where, you know, they could find a place where they could compromise. And I said, well, you know, if he's the kind of creative person that I hear you all describing and you don't really know what you're saying to me, I don't know whether you can find a place for him to compromise, because if he compromises, then his artistry will be diminished and he won't achieve what he's attempting to achieve. But at any rate, I decided to go and see if I could talk to Martin and see if I could get some kind of understanding between him and the Commercial Appeal. Well, by the time I got to Martin had already given the Commercial Appeal her money back and told him to get the hell out of the way. and talking to him, he said to me, he said, man, what I want to do, I want to produce this film documentary on Memphis and Memphis music and cause the people of Memphis to understand, appreciate, and be proud of what comes authentically from their culture. And they don't understand it. He says, so my mission is to be sure that all of them are proud of it. Well, he spent 3.5 years, and I spent many hours on the phone listening to him, talking to him, and falling in love with him as a person, as a spirit, and then what he was seeing creatively and what he was attempting to achieve, which was much, much bigger than life. You see what you see, but what's in his spirit and in his mind and his vision transcends what you see on the screen. But after he had completed it, he came into Memphis and we did several screenings of Take Me to the River to every socioeconomic group in Memphis, Tennessee. And I watched them as they reacted and responded to it. And we got to a certain point and Martin said, man, you know, I really want to take and expose this film at South by Southwest. He said, so we get an opportunity there for people from across the world to get a chance to see it. He said, but I need the money. I don't have the money to pay for the artists to go there, and I want the artists to go and perform, all of them that are in the documentary. And I'd like to be able to present in a first-class manner the documentary itself. And he said, and I need the money to do that, because he's, you know, working out his pocket and a few, you know, investors that were helping a little bit, with most of the money going to the Soulsville Foundation's the Music Academy there in Memphis, Tennessee. So he was doing it, it was benevolence, it was a good spirit and all of that. And he said, I've talked to the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I've asked them to pull together the power structure. And I want to be able to present this film to the power structure, and I think that if they see it, if they appreciate it, then perhaps I can get the money from them that I need to take everybody to South by Southwest. Well, he pulled it together, the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau pulled together that socioeconomic group, and when I say that socioeconomic group, I'm talking about the people with the deep pockets, if you know what I'm saying. The real power structure. I was concerned because my pitch to ask them for what was $50,000 was going to come after they had seen the film. And I said, my God, I hope, you know, they don't get turned off seeing what they're seeing. Well, I was blown away to see them sit there and hear them respond and reacts positively to the very same thing that everybody else reacted positively to. And they had no problem. As a matter of fact, I thought when we finished, I was like a preacher in church, but it was some big offerings. That everybody, as they walked out, was saying, okay, Al, after I asked for the money, okay, Al, whatever it is you need, everything you don't raise, I'll give it to you. Just let me know, let me know. One guy wanted to just write the whole check, and his wife stopped him and said, let the other people be involved. but I realized at that point in time that Martin had achieved his objective. He had caused everybody in Memphis, Tennessee to be proud of their music and what was born in Memphis. They began to see it differently because with it being all of those African-American artists, and you had, the majority of the population being African-American and going back historically and all that kind of stuff associated with that, it was difficult for them, and I mean understandable, for them to appreciate what was really happening. So they got a chance to see Take Me to the River, and it wasn't about any of these things that they had in their mind. I mean, Bobby Blue Bland, they didn't see Bobby Blue Bland as somebody that could sit and talk to a 6-year-old, and tell him how to sing and the kind of interaction. It changed to them, and not only did it change them, for the first time in the history of Memphis, the entire city now is in support of and behind its music industry like I've never seen before. And when he went to South by Southwest in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the wealthier men in that city took his plane and brought, I think it was 30 or 40 business people, and brought them to South by Southwest so they could view and see what took place at South by Southwest. So Martin achieved his objective, and he spent 3.5 years, now maybe 4 years, to end up with what you see on film. And it's a part of what's inside of him and all of the people that work with him and those that he has influenced and those that feel his spirit. And I think it's really the beginning of something new.
One of the things that really comes through as you watch this film is that you guys were, there was a time problem. I mean, there were so many people that you'd lost before, musicians you'd lost before you even went to make the film. And then you see all these people that have passed away since you started filming it. Did you feel pressure to get this done from that end of things?
Definitely. At first, God bless Teenie Hodges. We lost him recently, and it's still really fresh. In fact, the newest cut that will be here, I think we opened in Philadelphia October 3rd, does have a Teenie moment in it. So that's still fresh. But yeah, the call to action for starting the film was when Willie Mitchell, Alex Chilton, Isaac Hayes, Jim Dickinson, all passed in a 12-month period. It was our call to action. And what you see during the process of 3-4 years, it's 4 years now, is they're dying. And that's just going to happen. And it's part of what you experienced, so you're part of the family, and it hurts. I know everybody felt it tonight. It hurts. And it's when true greatness leaves a room, it's undeniable. And it just hurts to lose them. So yeah, it was something we really wanted to get started a lot earlier, but just seemed to talk about it for a while. And then, really when Jim died, it was time to get going.
Well, I'm glad you got so much history on there as it was. I know there's a lot of people here from NARAS, a lot of musicians and engineers and stuff, so you guys probably have a lot of digging down questions, so let's open it up to people who want to ask things.
There were lots of musicians we really wanted. And you build a field and some come and some don't, and I think it's scheduling, it is, a charity-based project. Yeah. So, there's just lots of reasons why things don't come together. And believe me, we went out to a lot of other musicians. I feel blessed of exactly who we got. And who we got came with everything. Everything. Oh, yeah. So, volume 2.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
I would like to, I actually think that had they all accepted, it would have been a very different movie and maybe not anywhere near as good. I think that very often when you watch these documentaries that are often focused on, there's a lot of unsung heroes to the music that you love, that then there's a moment of a star, and sometimes it interrupts the flow of the movie, and like, it's, oh, the Stones are here, or something like that, and suddenly, oh, it was, what were they talking about? You know, and that doesn't happen in this film. And it also it makes my hat is off to Snoop Dogg that he is part of the flow, and he's so articulate that even though, you know, he's perhaps at this point the most visible artist in the film, he still is part of the whole story and not just about him.
And I'll just say quickly, is that, and it's an important part, is we were trying to break down the breakdown of community. And there were artists who will always be unnamed and unmentioned, but there were artists that had inherently an objection to certain other genres. And what we really attempted to do was break through that barrier and start community so that people are talking again together. So the idea, and you know, I say this this is a good one. If you watch the movie again, I hope you do. If you watch the movie again, watch when Otis Clay is singing just before Peanut gets on. And there's a flashback to the control room, and Deanie Parker's just there like this. This Deanie was very outspoken, and she's fine with it. That she's the only one I would mention. She said, you know, I don't like rap music. I don't like the way it presents itself and what it is. The moment he starts singing, he starts rapping, you see the biggest smile come over Deanie's face, and forever we've been best friends since then.
Yeah, that's great.
We've got just a couple more minutes, so a couple more questions.
I have one little technical kind of thing. The clearance, the credit for your clearance. Was clearance a real problem with this film for all the different songs and all that?
Clearances are always, you know, it's never an easy trail. The fact that we owned our own masters was, you know, a big point in going forward to be able to do what we needed to do. And you know, there's a bigger, better person to serve. You know, everybody's getting their mechanicals on writing. You know, it's all good. But the reality is we wanted to create something for aging musicians in need. And so while publishing is very important and clearances are extremely important, the spirit was a little bit bigger than, you know, going, because I've been a music supervisor, and you know, some things can just be sticky. And you know, we set up a Favored Nations, which worked, and it's a charity-based project in the end.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing and then ask one thing. To hear that style of music recorded and mixed so well, and all those old instruments and all the old players was, I mean, just knocked me out as a musician. It was just incredible. And the question is, there's 3 songs here, but is there going to be an album that we'll be able to get?
Yeah, absolutely.
With these tracks.
This is my public service announcement.
Yeah.
So the film will open theatrically September 12th, and the record, which is Stax label, Concord Music Group, Universal Distribution, will be drops on the 9th of September. And we have released I Forgot to Be Your Lover, the William Bell, Snoop Dogg single, which is out in the ether and starting to get, I just learned it was, you know, 27 over here and 30, is starting to get some spins and some play. We just now today premiered the video, and it's up on Yahoo Music. And then it'll probably be spread out over other portals tomorrow sometime. But yeah, I mean, just if you focus on the social network stuff, you know, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our website. So it's all Take Me to the River stuff.
any proceeds to the school?
Yes, the three charities that we are fully behind is Soulsville, and most particularly, as Al was mentioning, the Stax Music Academy and the Stax Charter School, as well as the Church Health Center, which provides medical for working musicians and aging musicians in need, and also emergency services, and the Blues Heart Fund, which is more about catastrophic type expenses and burial and funeral and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for making
Yeah.
this video.
I just want to add to that, you know, the Music Academy, these kids who came in rough at first when we first started it, have become some of the finest disciplined students that you could ever imagine. I mean, and they're studying and all of that, priceless, and they have performed in major venues throughout this country, throughout Europe, and from the Kennedy Center to you name it. In the charter school, once we got to the point where we had grades through 12, and we, for 3 years now, have graduated three 12th grade classes, each and every single solitary student received scholarships, full four-year scholarships, over $9 million in scholarships in the cheapest and lowest income zip code in America.
Wow. Yeah.
I just want to add to what Al just said. When you go and visit them, they have kind of people who take care of those kids once they go into college, because some of them don't have that experience and they really follow them through. So this is like really thought out in a great, great way.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a Philadelphian here. I saw her earlier, Miss Deanna Williams. Is Deanna still here? She's gone.
Yeah.
Deanna played a major role in aiding me and navigating me through the Philadelphia community to cause us to get exposure for Stax Records and our Stax artists, and I wanted to recognize Deanna for that. She also, and I don't know whether you know it here in Philadelphia, but it was also Deanna who was in the background that played a major role in influencing Kenny Gamble to be persistent, so that in lobbying and dealing with President Jimmy Carter, that he was able to cause President Jimmy Carter to declare officially June as Black Music History Entertainment Month.
Yeah.
And Deanna played a very important role in doing that, and I just wanted to recognize her. Yes, ma'am.
Talking about Philadelphia, I myself have produced.
About me?
Yeah. Yeah. Stax.
Well, it's still being born. It was painful, but I have a spirit in me that forgave, and I did that immediately. That period was very painful, but I thank God that I was blessed to experience it. For without that, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. I don't want to have to go through it again in life, and wouldn't like to see anybody go through it. But I thank God for the experiences. It was all positive, and it made me a better man.
If you go to Memphis and you go to the Stax Museum, it's one thing. It's just an amazing array of music and the gold records and the gold automobile and all that. But right next door to it is something that moved me more than anything, and that is the charter school and the Stax Academy, where all those musicians came from, which is a living, vibrant, amazing thing. And that has come out of whatever the answer to Stax was. That is just an important thing. And you saw the musicians from there, too, who were pretty good. So they're doing something right with that.